In the world of tech, we've always known the US to be more advanced until now. They keep amazing us with their new inventions. But as of now, China just claimed to surpass the US with their new ultra-silent, invisible submarines. In what way has China used to make these incredible submarines better than the US own? Let's check it out in this video. But before we start, please like and subscribe to this channel, and then sit back and relax. China's technical progress in the field of submarines has been rapid, and it continues to increase its inventory of conventional submarines capable of launching advanced anti-ship cruise missiles. Since the mid-1990s and over a decade, China has bought 12 Russian submarines, and then its shipyards have been delivering 30 conventional submarines, Song and Yuan class. The Pentagon is counting on China to build at least another 25 Yuan class units by 2025. In the past 15 years, China has also equipped itself with 12 nuclear-powered submarines, 2 Shang-1, 4 Shang-2, and 6 Jin. The latter, armed with ballistic missiles, constitute China's first sea-based nuclear deterrent, according to the Pentagon report, which states that from the beginning of this decade, China will begin building its new generation of submarines with ballistic missiles. Meanwhile, China is also upgrading its anti-submarine warfare inventory and training to protect the Navy's aircraft carriers and ballistic missile submarines. China's invisible submarines, two breakthroughs from Chinese scientists and engineers, promise new submarines that will be more powerful, quieter, and more undetectable to enemy sonar. Two teams of Chinese researchers have revealed within days of each other two discoveries that can make their submarines faster, quieter, and invisible to the sonar of their enemies. A rubber invisibility cloak. Researchers at Xi'an Jiaotong University in central China have created a new coating for submarines that is capable of absorbing sound waves and making it more difficult for submarines to be detected by sonar. This system emits sounds at different frequencies to detect the position of objects under the sea, such as submarines, mines, or missiles. The waves sent by the sonar bounce off the surface of the ship and produce an echo that can be detected by a receiver to calculate its location. The new material, designed by Professor Qingswen Liang and his colleagues, made up of 32mm thick strips of rubber, could be the thinnest yet able to absorb a wide range of frequencies. The researchers used an artificial intelligence algorithm to help them figure out the optimal structure and layout to apply to the submarine. Thus, they concluded that to maximize the absorption of sound waves at different frequencies, some of the strips had to have a rectangular piece of lead running through them, while others have pyramid-shaped cavities. One of the new Chinese Type 093 nuclear submarines, as the researchers recount in an article published in the journal Physical Review Applied, they used a computer simulation with which they were able to determine a 95% efficiency of absorption of the material in the range of frequencies used by sonar, between 1 and 10 kHz. In this way, the material proved capable of absorbing waves with an efficiency of around 95. The researchers also think the bounce signal from the submarine would be weak and more likely to go undetected or blend in with some other underwater structure, such as a reef. Liang says that most invisible material designs don't work as well across frequencies, with noticeably less performance at lower frequencies. In addition, adding a thin wall of steel to the material, the researcher says, could also make the material work below 4.5 megapascals, the pressure experienced by submarines deeper than 450 meters. Now the group is working on developing a practical method for manufacturing their material and a new, quieter, and more powerful engine. They design a propulsion system for submarines in China that will make them 90% quieter. Another article, published October 10 in the Chinese Journal of Ship Research, a publication run by China's top military ship designer, the Wuhan 701 Institute, describes a new hydrojet. These nautical propulsion systems using a water jet can provide submarines with greater thrust and reduce their vibrations by more than 90%. Part of modern submarines has a propeller covered with a hull, which places the rotor in a duct to generate a jet of water and thus propel the movement. Between the rotor blades and the inner side of the duct, there is a clearance, usually as little as a millimeter wide, that can produce a lot of turbulence or bubbles. It is precisely this that slows down many submarines in use today, making them easily detectable. Engineers from the 701 Institute, based in the Chinese city of Wuhan, claim to have solved this problem. The new design can increase the thrust of the jet pump at slower rotational speeds and significantly reduce vibrations at the most characteristic frequencies. The hydrojet engine of a U.S. Virginia-class submarine. The hydrojet is used in some modern submarines that have the rotor in a covered forward frame to generate a jet of water for propulsion. The problem is that between the rotor blades and the inner wall of the duct, there is a very small open space that produces a lot of turbulence or bubbles that can slow down the submarine and give away its location. The team has succeeded in creating a rotor for the hydrojet that leaves no gaps. The system sinks the outer edge of the blades into the wall of the duct so that the tips of the rotor do not have contact with the water when moving. The researchers also made an incision in the canal wall to allow the rotor tips to move freely within it. For the proper functioning of the system, they say, a material is needed that seals the structure, preventing the entry of water, but leaving the rotor free. Chinese researchers have not revealed the composition of the material, but they have said that it has a soft structure made of fine fibers that keeps water out. The researchers have carried out a series of simulations indicating that the new design could increase engine thrust at slower speeds, while significantly reducing vibration by 1/10 to 1/30th less than a conventional hydrojet, explains the team. The device, they say, can generate 10% more thrust at lower speeds by reducing the turbulence that causes drag. During tests, this system produced fewer bubbles, known as cavitation, that occur when the blades spin rapidly. As the South China Morning Post points out, the first Chinese nuclear submarines made a lot of noise, allowing other countries to track their movements with relative ease. But some military experts believe that the latest models of the Chinese submarine fleet have become faster and quieter with the use of new technology like this. China designed small nuclear reactor for submersible drones with 10,000-kilometer range. In theory, the hydrojet inside a duct can better suppress noise and achieve higher energy efficiency than a fully open rotor, but the chaotic currents generated in the space between the blade and the duct shell could in practice reduce much of this advantage, causing strong vibrations in the rotor shaft, according to the experts. So far, the experiments have only been carried out at a ground-based test facility, but the results on noise and vibration reduction have been significant. The developers claim that the new device generates about 10% more thrust by reducing random turbulence and also produces fewer bubbles as long as it doesn't hit full speed, being slightly less efficient in this respect than traditional designs. The first modern ducted propeller was built by the Italian inventor Secondo Campini in 1931, recalls the Chinese newspaper. These propulsion systems can now be found in some of the most powerful submarines in the world, such as the U.S. Seawolf, Virginia, and Columbia classes, and the French Triumphant class. The game of cat and mouse war. Precisely, the submarine fleets of both U.S. and China are moving towards a greater focus on anti-submarine warfare. Until now, Chinese subs were a surface ship strike force, but as their capabilities improve, they aspire to deal more as equals with the Americans, suggesting a new stage of hide and chase that may reissue the game of cat and mouse that took place between the two superpowers in the deep sea during the Cold War. This is what the greatest secrecy leads to, that the Chinese are being able to apply to their submarines, so far behind the Americans in that regard. The Chinese Navy has made progress with the installation of new devices in the new generation of nuclear submarines. The acoustic supremacy of the North Americans may be threatened by this advance, and it would not be the first time that the United States is the victim of Asian naval advances. It is only necessary to remember the events of Pearl Harbor and the great contribution of the long-range torpedoes developed by the Japanese Navy. The big question is whether these advances will be of a similar magnitude, which would mean a change in the naval status quo. The operations of the Chinese Navy, in any case, will be highly oriented towards the offensive aspect, in parity with the operational priority of the American one. Another consequence of the further development of Chinese submarine capability, even if only referring to the number of units, may be the attempt to crowd the South China Sea, or at least the Taiwan Strait and its surrounding waters, with a flotilla of submarines that hinder the work of freedom of navigation carried out by the U.S. and end up keeping U.S. ships at a distance. Brian Clark of the Hudson Institute has noted that China's growing submarine fleet could likely try to flood the zone to overwhelm U.S. submarine warfare assets, threatening U.S. naval forces with an attack, or trying to blockade Guam or Taiwan. That part of the strategic pulse between Washington and Beijing is played in the depths is also demonstrated by other elements, such as the AUKUS alliance between Australia, the United Kingdom, and the United States. This is a security and defense cooperation agreement that starts with the U.S. and British commitment to share technology for the construction of 12 nuclear-powered submarines for the Australian Navy. China has reacted with special verbal forcefulness against this initiative. If you enjoyed this video, video. Don't forget to hit like, the subscription button, and the notification bell to get notified when new videos are uploaded from this channel. Please share your thoughts about China wants to outdo the US with new invisible submarines in the comment section below. Thank you.